It is time for the British people to have their say. It is time for us to settle this question about Britain and Europe.
Should the United Kingdom remain in or leave the European Union? That's the question the British public will decide by vote on June 23rd. So, why is this happening? Some Brits are unhappy with the UK's relationship with the EU. They say the bloc has outgrown what they viewed as its original purpose as a trading zone, and that Brussels has too much influence over British life. Under pressure from some members of his own Conservative Party and threatened by the rise of the anti-EU UK Independence Party, Prime Minister David Cameron promised to hold a referendum on the issue if he won last year's general election. So what is the EU? The European Union is an economic and political union between 28 European countries. The organization's policy reach spans areas from trade, security, justice, and migration to health, environment, and climate. As a member of the European Union, the UK is subject to EU legislation. But to actually put it into action, the UK may require its own parliament to pass new or amended legislation. So what's at stake? Britain's exit from the EU, or so-called Brexit, could have an impact on Britain's economy, trade, security, migration, and also on the EU's 27 other member states. But could is the key word. No country has ever left the modern EU, so there are a lot of unknowns about what the UK's future would look like in the event of a Brexit. Mr. Cameron is spearheading the push to convince voters to remain.
Let me be clear. Leaving Europe would threaten our economic and our national security.
EU membership gives the UK, the world's fifth largest economy, access to Europe's so-called single market, which allows people, goods, and services to move around as if the member states were one country, with some remaining barriers.
Those who want to leave Europe cannot tell you if British businesses would be able to access Europe's free trade single market, or if working people's jobs are safe, or how much prices would rise. All they're offering is a risk at a time of uncertainty, a leap in the dark.
Supporting the Remain campaign are the leaders of almost all British political parties, many large businesses that operate in the UK, and some international leaders.
Our focus is in negotiating with a big bloc of the European Union to get a trade agreement done. And UK is going to be in the back of the queue.
Those campaigning for Britain's departure include some senior figures within the Conservative Party, the most prominent being former London Mayor Boris Johnson.
It is not we who have changed, it is the EU that has changed out of all recognition. And to keep insisting that the EU is about economics is like saying that the Italian mafia is interested in olive oil and real estate.
The Leave campaign argues that EU membership is costly and imposes burdensome regulation on business. They also say being a member of the EU limits the UK's ability to curb immigration, because EU citizens have the right to live and work in any EU country.
That is the choice on June the 23rd. It is between taking back control of our money or giving a further £100 billion to Brussels before the next election, between deciding who we want to come here to live and work, or letting the EU decide.
So what do the British people think? British public opinion is divided on the issue, so an outcome is hard to predict. In the event the UK votes to stay, the British public will likely still have an appetite for further changes to the UK's relationship with the EU. And in the event the UK votes to leave, a divorce wouldn't be immediate. The UK and the rest of the EU would need to hash out everything from its trade arrangements to what happens to Europeans living in Britain. And these negotiations would likely take years.